100 studies that have found a direct link between pornography and aggression, and over 50 studies that have shown a direct link between pornography and sexual violence. And so while it's not the primary cause necessarily, it's a very strong correlate and a contributing factor when we talk about sexual violence occurring. So in fact, when you do the math on it, the odds that there's no link between porn and sexual violence is 1 in 88 decillion, which is a number that's so high we can hardly even count that high.
Ted Bundy, who confessed to murdering 30 women and girls just days before he got Florida's electric chair in 1989, women he often raped before he beat them to death. Bundy also chose to talk about the dangers of porn just days before his execution.
Experience. The most damaging kinds of pornography are those that involve violence and sexual violence, because the wedding of those two forces, as I know only too well, brings about behavior that is just too terrible to describe. I've lived and I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me, and without exception, every one of them was deeply involved in pornography without question.
Encouraging them to come back to church after the lockdowns, saying that watching it on TV can never be a replacement for Mass. Quote, "We cannot live as Christians without the banquet of the Eucharist, the risen Christ himself, present in body, blood, soul, and divinity in that bread of heaven." Also in Rome, Catholics are outraged at the Vatican for painting Jesus black. Over the weekend, the Pontifical Academy for Life tweeted out a doctored image of Michelangelo's famed Pietà, changing his skin color. Critics compare this vandalism to the act of Marxist activist Laszlo Toth in 1972, who attacked the Pietà with a sledgehammer. Trump's former national security advisor is once again denying Trump disrespected dead veterans. Monday on Fox News, John Bolton said he never heard the president disparage soldiers during a 2018 trip to France.
I was simply responding to what I thought was the main point of the Atlantic article, that at the critical point, Saturday morning, when the decision was made not to go to An Marne, that he made the disparaging remarks, and he did not.
So far, more than 21 officials have gone on the record rejecting claims that the president insulted military war dead. Accurate polling outfits in the nation, among the few that got the election results right in 2016. Black Lives Matter is being funded by a pro-communist China group. A Tuesday report by Daily Signal revealed the San Francisco-based Chinese Progressive Association, or CPA, is funding a Black Lives Matter co-founder. In June, China's state-sponsored newspaper, China Daily, praised CPA members for supporting BLM demonstrations in San Francisco. CPA is handling donations for what the BLM leader calls a revolutionary empire.
Various Lebanese churches were leveled by an explosion on Tuesday in Beirut.
Abdullah speaks with homosexual co-founder Patrisse Cullors about their rituals calling up the dead.
Literally almost resurrecting a spirit so they can work through us to get the work that we need to get done.
Right. You said a lot of things important, but you said something important about remembering them. And I also feel that even beyond remembering them, we're invoking them, right? So this is an invocation.
They went on to discuss the offerings they used to invoke dead spirits for their cause, spanning men from women's sports. A poll conducted by Spry Strategies and the Women's Liberation Front revealed that 79% of likely voters in Idaho and 74% of likely voters in California oppose letting transgender men play women's sports. The first law banning biological males from female athletics was passed in Idaho in March. In related news, Joe Biden's pro-China stance is under scrutiny. A 2011 op-ed recently surfaced showing the Democrat pushing for the economic rise of the communist regime. The New York Times also noted Biden's push to increase China's global role. The Democrat presidential contender has come under fire for downplaying the threat of communist China in his election campaign, with some is denouncing Joe Biden. Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano said in an interview yesterday that the Catholic Democrats' support of abortion puts him at odds with the Catholic faith, and he believes he'll lose the election. Vigano also called the U.S. bishops to account for failing to condemn him. Quote, "The bishops and the leaders of the church will answer to God for betraying their duty as pastors." Muslims are slaughtering Ethiopian Christians. A September 9th report reveals 500 Christians killed around the East African nation's capital since June. The terrorists responsible are mostly young males driving door to door, shooting and hacking up the faithful with machetes. Victims include pregnant women, children, and sometimes entire families. Facebook's CEO is predicting a protracted election. Mark Zuckerberg said in an interview with Axios last week that there's no problem delaying the election in order to authenticate November's vote tallies.
There's nothing illegitimate about this election taking additional days or even weeks to make sure that all of the votes are counted.
This while Democrats are pushing for mail-in ballots, which would add to the delays in counting votes.
I think like them.
Yeah, I think we've found enough peace here today. It's no joke. I'm going to my car. I'm going to my car.